could this underdog be our next hidden gem on defense? Seahawks fans, listen up, because there is a fascinating situation brewing in our linebacker room that you absolutely need to know about. We've got a player fighting against the odds, defying the typical size standards of the league, and hungry to prove he belongs on our active roster. Is he a future playmaker, or just depth? The details on his path to Seattle might just surprise you. Smash that like button and subscribe right now to help us reach our 1,000 subscriber goal. Your support is the heartbeat of this community. Let's dive in. The conversation surrounding Chris Paul Jr. begins with his unique physical profile, which stands out immediately when evaluating his potential impact on the Seattle Seahawks in 2026. As a linebacker, Chris Paul Jr. presents a frame that is notably smaller than the current standard for the position in the NFL. During the 2025 NFL Combine, his measurements were heavily scrutinized, with his height coming in just under 6 feet 1 inch and his weight recorded at 222 pounds. This specific weight measurement is particularly notable, as it places him in the 3rd percentile for linebackers who have attended the Combine over the last 27 years. Furthermore, his arm length measurement falls short of 30 inches, making him one of the very few linebackers in the league to ever record such a statistic. Physically, he is effectively a linebacker playing in the body of a safety. These unconventional measurements were a major talking point during his draft process and played a significant role in his journey to the NFL. While recent trends across the league have certainly favored the emergence of smaller, faster linebackers, the case of Chris Paul Jr. is pushing those standards to their absolute limit. It is a reality that following his selection as a 5th-round pick, he did not manage to secure a spot on the Los Angeles Rams' active roster for the 2025 season. However, his professional path took a turn when he remained within the division, being signed by the Seattle Seahawks to join their practice squad. He spent the entire duration of the 2025 season in that capacity, technically being part of a championship-winning team, without participating in a real game. Now in 2026, he looks to shift that narrative, carrying the hope of many who shout, "Go Hawks!" To understand the current trajectory of Chris Paul Jr., one must look back at his collegiate production, which initially caught the attention of NFL scouts. Before reaching the professional ranks, he spent time playing for the Arkansas Razorbacks and the Ole Miss Rebels. His stint with the Razorbacks from 2022 to 2023 saw him record 136 total tackles, with 14.5 of those resulting in a loss, alongside 6 sacks. His collegiate career reached a new peak during the 2024 season with the Ole Miss Rebels, where he totaled 88 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks, 1 interception, and 4 passes defensed. This statistical success during his time at Ole Miss was the catalyst that propelled him through the pre-draft process. Despite the concerns regarding his size, his production was enough to convince the Los Angeles Rams to use a Day 3 selection on him. Once in Los Angeles, he faced a crowded linebacker room that included players like Nathan Landman, Omar Speights, Troy Reeder, Sean Dolak, and Elias Neal. While this group was not an all-time elite unit, it proved to be a difficult room for a rookie with his specific physical limitations to crack. He was unable to secure a permanent role, which led to his eventual transition to the Seahawks. This path highlights the specific hurdles that Chris Paul Jr. must overcome. His size has been a consistent factor in his professional evaluations, yet his college production remains his strongest asset. As he prepares for the upcoming opportunities in Seattle, the question remains how he can leverage that past college success to prove he belongs on the active roster in a highly competitive environment where size and speed are heavily valued. Analyzing what Chris Paul Jr. brings to the field reveals a player who relies heavily on mental processing to compensate for his physical disadvantages. Chris Paul Jr. maximizes his limited physical talent by demonstrating high-level play recognition and sound technique, remaining balanced and measured in how he attacks the line of scrimmage. He has shown an aptitude for blitzing, frequently making plays in the backfield by using his small stature to his advantage, specifically through his ability to slip through blockers effectively. Despite the concern regarding his arm length, he has consistently displayed the ability to wrap up and finish, not missing many tackle opportunities. These traits are exactly why he remains a prospect of interest. However, it is also important to address the limitations inherent in his game. Ultimately, he is currently viewed as an unremarkable talent in terms of pure physical upside. Beyond his size, his straight-line speed and acceleration metrics are fairly average for the position. While he can slip off blocks, he is prone to being overwhelmed if an offensive blocker lands a clean hit on him. Furthermore, he currently lacks the specific coverage skills required to be a primary third down linebacker. Why does this matter right now for the team? The Seattle Seahawks have a very well-defined roster structure at the linebacker position. With Ernest Jones and Drake Thomas established as the starters, the team has clear depth provided by Tyrese Knight and Patrick O'Connell, and Chaz Surratt remains a constant presence for special teams duties. For Chris Paul Jr., these factors mean that his role is currently limited to the developmental squad, and he must work tirelessly to prove he can overcome these deficiencies to secure a future spot on the 53-man roster. The 2026 season presents a specific set of circumstances for Chris Paul Jr., as he looks to solidify his place within the Seahawks organization. As it stands, he is likely vying for a position on the practice squad once again. The depth at the linebacker position in Seattle is not just a strength, but a significant hurdle for someone of his profile to overcome. When looking at the current defensive roster, the presence of entrenched starters and reliable backups provides little room for experimentation. However, the nature of the long NFL season means that availability is always a fluctuating variable. Injuries and the necessity for load management are realities that can change a team's roster requirements in a matter of weeks. Chris Paul Jr. could absolutely find himself as the first individual to receive a call-up to the main roster should any of the primary players face unavailability. The Seahawks are known for taking their practice squad development seriously, meaning that even if he does not make the final cut to the 53-man roster, the organization expects a high level of preparation and performance from him. His ability to remain ready on the practice field is his primary path to active participation in a game. For a player who is technically on a Super Bowl winning roster in 2025 without seeing a single snap, the drive to earn a legitimate role is a major part of his professional motivation. He must demonstrate that his ability to recognize plays and utilize his technique is consistent enough to be trusted during high-intensity situations, regardless of the depth chart hierarchy that currently keeps him on the outside, looking in during training camp. Looking at the road ahead, the journey for Chris Paul Jr. is one of patience and technical refinement. He enters the 2026 season with the objective of proving that his internal understanding of the game can bridge the gap created by his physical profile. While he remains a practice squad candidate, the work he does during daily sessions is critical. The Seahawks staff has placed him in an environment where he is surrounded by established NFL linebackers, providing him with a blueprint of what is required to remain in the league long-term. His development will depend on his ability to maintain his play recognition skills, while potentially finding ways to mitigate the physical disadvantages that were highlighted during his time with the Rams. The fact that he was retained by the Seahawks after the 2025 season suggests that the coaching staff sees potential in his technical approach, even if he hasn't yet found a permanent home on the main roster. His future is tied directly to how well he can adapt to the rigorous demands of the NFL game as a backup who must be ready at a moment's notice. Whether he secures a promotion due to an unforeseen roster opening or continues his progression as a practice squad member, every rep he takes in 2026 serves as evidence of his persistence. He has successfully transitioned from a Day 3 draft choice to a member of an NFL organization, and his focus now remains entirely on finding a way to participate in an actual game. For Chris Paul Jr., the goal is to transform from a player who is physically limited into a reliable asset who can be counted on when the organization needs to address gaps in their defensive depth.